Welcome to the build of the 2.5 tonne 6x6 cargo truck. This is part 2 of the build. In this part we'll be adding the leaf springs and the power drive for the winch. We're using sprue B this case. We're taking off the first off the two reinforcing plates to go on the chassis rails. You'll notice I take off a big chunk of the sprue as well, and not actually cut the part out itself. This stops the part getting bent or damaged, and that's much easier to trim it off later. Especially that part I just took just then. There's a sprue gate right in the middle of that very fine drive shaft. If I tried to cut it off as part of the sprue, it'd bend or even break. We cut off the leaf springs themselves. This is the second A sprue. We'll take out the rest of the leaf springs. Now I've cleaned up the reinforcing parts, and we'll mount them on the chassis rail. These two parts are identical, so there's no real problem picking the others. What I'm noticing at the moment is my extra thin is evaporating. I've just put this on here now. By the time I reach for the reinforcing, it's evaporated. It's a cool one today. It's 27, so I don't know why. Maybe the extra thin has a shelf life once it's opened, so I'll have to keep an eye on that. So you just add a bit to reinforce it in the back. I'll do the other side off camera, so you're not seeing me repeating the same thing. So I've got those two reinforcing plates on. Now it's time to add the leaf springs at the rear. These are identical, so we don't have to worry too much about it. There's two pins, locating pins, and they fit on quite neatly. The engineering on these Tamiya kits is really good. There's I didn't show the second one, I did it off camera, so now the leaf springs are on the rear. I can now concentrate on the leaf springs on the front of the truck. There's again, I've got locating pins. You don't see these pins once it's assembled, so that's quite good. It's got this one in place. I'll do the second one off camera again. No good repeating the same thing over and over again. Now we'll add the bit of reinforcing where it can't be seen. A bit of extra thing in where you can't see it to reinforce. Now add the cover plate for the transfer box for the power takeoff for the front winch. Bit of extra thin with the capillary action to make it go between the joints. Now the takeoff unit with the drive shaft to the winch now. As you can see, that was a very thin part. It locates in a pocket at the front and another pocket on the side of that transfer case. Took a bit of fiddling this one. I think there's a slight error on my part in the subframe at the front, so it's not lining up exactly, but it's close. By the time you add the winch itself on there, you're not going to see the misalignment. I've got a neighbour just turned their radio up. Why do they do that? Just when I start to video. Okay, there's the chassis so far. The next episode we'll be working on the fuel tanks and other bits and pieces before we prime it. I'll just mark off on the drawing what I've completed. I haven't added the exhaust. I'll do that later when I add the engine. There's no need for it to go on it just at this moment. So just with a highlighter, I just mark off what I've done. So thanks for watching, and click the thumbs up, subscribe, and ring that bell for notifications. So it's cheerio from me here in Pasat, Thailand. Till next time. Cheerio.